Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of In Between Streams. Today we are going to be working on the Imperial Knight that we were working on this week on stream. So, very happy for you guys to be watching this right now. Patreon is starting to pick up. I actually got my first Patreon this week. Thanks a lot, William. I'll be doing a shout out as well on the Twitch stream. So, before we start, I actually need to confess, I fucked up this week. So, I forgot to paint the chest plate and the head cover on the Imperial Knight that we have right here. So, also I did adjust the cam to show the color closer to what the color actually is on the model. This is why my hand here is coming out a little bit funky. But the green that you're seeing on the video is actually closer to the green that's actually on the model. So before we continue, I'm actually going to go back to airbrush. I'm going to fix the stuff that I forgot about. And we are also going to be putting some paint on some of the side weapons. So let me start that playlist. It's going to be music in our future. Sorry about that. All right, let's go. I hope that everybody enjoys. So, doing a little bit more work on the airbrush. Now, I am unsure what color I'm going for these things. I'm going to get some cleaner, and there also my finger is getting better. It's not quite there yet, but it is getting better. So we'll have a look at the larger model to get a feel for what color we want these things to be. There's a lot of green around here, so this leads me to... Oh, that'd be cool. I think I'm going to do a two-tone chest plate. So, white here, which is a continuity of what's coming down, green here, and I am thinking of a white headpiece. Not sure if the white headpiece is a good thing, though. Let's try it. Whatever. We also need to do some work on the shield there. However, I've got some aces up my sleeve for the shield. There's something I've got in mind. I'm not going to say right away. If we have time to do this today, we'll look into this. But I'm probably going to do the shield once I'm done with this before I start detailing the whole thing. So, main body it is, and we need some white and green on the main body. So I'm going to start with everything that's required for the white, because like on the rest of the model that was different. I started with the green because green was the most present color. However, typically you want to try to start with your brightest color to avoid spickling happening and everything, right? Because you've got better control of the darker color than what you have on the brightest color, so it's better. All right, so loading dryad bark. Luckily for me, I had kept the colors that I was using right on my desk, so I don't have to think about, oh, what color did I use for this? I actually had prepared my color palette beforehand when we started this project. So my colors are on my desk, and this is something that I tend to do when I know that a project is going to run for a bit of a longer time. So I clean off my paint area, and I just keep those colors that I know are going to be used for that project. And if I'm adding a color while I'm working on a project, well, in that case, what I do is that I just add the color to the lot that I have, but I do keep a separation with my project colors that I'm using. All right. Hopefully, so I think that on Wednesday on the stream, I think that it's the primer that was not quite dry. The problem that I was having with paint lifting, I think it was a primer issue. So hopefully I'm not going to run into this issue today, because if I am, I'm going to be very mad. All right, so build up for that wider part. Oh, that paint is very liquid. I'm going to have to be extremely careful here. There's a little bit too much flow improver in my paint. So this is just air, I need this to dry. I will need multiple coat because of how thin my paint is right now. It's like abnormally thin even for me. This is just air. And William, if you are watching this video, know that I am watching your stream as I'm painting this. However, it is muted because I mean, I need to control the sound, but I am watching what you're painting on the corner of my eye. This is just air. What you're doing right now is actually pretty damn cool. So for everyone who's watching, if you want to encourage another streamer, have a look at Tulpa painting stuff on Twitch. I always have a nice time when I'm on a stream. Okay, I think I'm going to do the head the same way, because I kind of like this. Oh, this is one of these moments when I'm really torn, and what I'm thinking here actually, guys, is I'm thinking of contrast and how nice or not nice will that contrast look on the Mini. So I think I'm going to do the head white, because this is going green and this will be going green with some white on. So let's go for white. The worst case, you know what, we just come back and we do it over again. And it's not an issue. This is just air. I was a little bit heavy here. Hopefully this will dry off nicely. Yeah, this is a nice thing. So working super thin has some advantages in convenience, but from time to time it forgives some technical mistakes, which is a good thing. Because a technical mistake with an airbrush usually means you need to strip the model. Okay, this is just air. Going to come back on the chest. And note that I'm not caring about the overbleeding on this part here, because this is not going to be silver actually, so this is very much not an issue. It's currently silver because I went with the airbrush and I did like the general color, but this is going golden, so it is not an issue. Okay, so dryad bark, we're done with it. Dumping this in my pot. Next thing is Baneblade Brown. Loading that color in the airbrush right now. Mixing. I think I'm going to try to go just like that. That color is already really thin. Maybe add just a drop of flow improver just to be on the safe side here. Yeah, just a little bit. Mixing this. Okay, so this is the color that I'm currently ending up with. I'm going to empty the brush from the paint that was previously there. All right. So this is still thin, but it's thicker than what I had in a moment ago in there. Not going to need 10 coats of this. A little bit more. Okay, not pushing more than that. Dumping what I have in my pot. Sometimes you don't need to push the color. Going to give this a little bit of a clean. Cranking up the pressure here. Okay, so now we're going to do Shabti-Bone. It is possible that the head will end up with a slightly different feeling. This is one thing with airbrush. It's when you're mixing the color in the pot like I'm doing, it is typically hard to achieve the exact same shade of color, right? So it is possible that it will end up slightly different. In which case, it's not the end of the world. Okay, this is Shabti-Bone. Let's look at the color on the paper. This is a lot brighter. Need to drop my pressure. Okay, let's see how this reacts. This is nice. Let's go in the main body first. As you know, I like to start with smaller parts when I do big jump in color. Not going to push this too much, because this is in the under part. So typically it should be slightly darker, and I might not go to the bright ivory in this case, to that part of the armor, because it's kind of logical that this is slightly darker. So on the main body, this is where I'm going to stop this, I believe. They kind of match, like the color works. It should be darker, which it is, so I'm going to paint the rest and I'll see if I'm stopping there or not. This is just air. I need to dry this before I go back. This is starting to take shape. Even if it's not exactly the same color, the eye actually fills the void, and that is correct. Okay, so I have yet another phone call that I need to take. You give me just a second and I will be back. Alright, I am back. Sorry about that. I needed to take that phone call. So, we're working on the white. The good thing is that that gave time for this to dry. Okay, this is as much as I'm going to push it on the top of the helmet. With that in mind, it feels like it's time to change color. So dumping the color in here. I'm going to fill this cup with cleaner now. And before I flush it, what I like to do is I use cotton swab to clean the paint that has cured around the cup. This helps in preventing any clog going down your cup. So I'm cleaning it like that, and one thing you will notice is that whatever comes off, like the cleaner that's in there right now, I am not pushing through the paint, because this can result in basically clogs, because there's like big particles in there and basically is not clean. So then I'm doing another pass of cleaner. And with that pass of cleaner, I'm actually going to do the back floating, because it turns out that this is really good for cleaning an airbrush, because this helps getting the stuff that's in the airbrush out of there, and yet again, I'm not pushing it through the airbrush. Once I've done that, now is the moment where I am putting it in, I'm cranking my pressure, and with this I'm putting through the airbrush, and I'm removing and cleaning and everything. So, cleaning my airbrush in between colors is slightly longer than what most people do, but in exchange, I basically never run into any issues, which I guess is pretty good. Okay, so we've got a clean airbrush now. The mix of color that we did previously was Nordic olive with black. This is what we're going to attempt at replicating this morning. Now that one's a little bit tricky, because there was a lot of color mix in it. The white is easier to replicate than the green. Okay, so I've got my green in my cup. I'm cleaning my pipette as well, because this is what I'm using to get paint out of that type of pots. Works really, really well, but if you're not careful cleaning these, end up costing a lot of money. So I'm cleaning them so that I can reuse them. Now a little bit of black. I already have put some flow improver in there, so shouldn't be too bad. Like, I'm probably going to be able to just use that as is once it has been mixed. Alright, so mixing the pot. I think this is about what it looked like when we started last stream. This looks about right. It should be okay. Yeah, it's like the mix of Ordic olive and black gives you kind of a camel green type color. This is pretty much what I was looking for. So this is Ordic olive clean, because that's what I added at the bottom of the pot, and this is the mix that's starting to come out. I need to bring my pressure way back down. Okay, this is better. Still. Okay. Now this is what we're working with. It is thin, yet not too thin. And the chest plate is getting this treatment. Important to be careful here because we've got our white. Now this is so thin that if you go over just a little bit, it will usually be forgiven. Like, you're probably going to be good, but you still need to be extremely careful. Okay, this is just air, allowing this to dry. So the chest plate I'm also going to do slightly darker because it's under there. It should not receive as much light. Okay, air again. Paint and air. Okay, so this is pretty uniform. Now we need to do that shield over here. Now I'm using my finger here to block off any possible overspray on the shoulder pad. I'm not too concerned about oversprays on other parts. The shoulder pad, like the metal part, I'm going to come back with metallic. This is not like, it's almost a non-issue. But the rest, I care very much. I'm angling my airbrush so that I can paint this without spraying everywhere. This is now just air. Okay, so drying. So there's a little bit of overspray on the metal, as I was expecting, but the rest is clean. So this is perfect. This is what I wanted. Allowing this to dry. The rest should be pretty dry. Dumping my color. When we did this week, we then went to pure Ordic olive. So I'm going to clean this a little bit. I'm going to prepare Ordic olive. Okay, give me a second. I'll be back in just a minute. I've cleaned that brush. Alright, sorry about that. I had a message on Facebook. A friend of mine was about to buy an airbrush, and he had a couple of questions and stuff like that. So I took a quick break in painting to be able to answer his question there. If you ever have questions like that, by the way, just send me a message on Patreon, or send me a whisper or whatever. I just enjoy helping people with that stuff, so just let me know. Alright, so we're going to pure Ordic Olive. And while I was taking a break, I noticed that yet again I forgot to do the main weapons. So I'll probably do the main weapons off camera in this case. Because there's no way on earth I'm filming the exact same color progression like 3 times. I don't want to bore you guys to death. So, alright. This is pure Ordic Olive. And also, I might do the weapons a different color. Like maybe this knight actually salvaged his weapon from a different knight, right? Maybe he's very old and he picked up the weapons from a dead knight that was on the battleground. I don't know, something like that. There might be some cool stuff to do there. Okay, this is really thin. I need to be extremely careful here. This will require multiple coats. I will actually even bring my pressure back down. So I'm spraying at around 14 pounds of pressure right now. There's barely any paint coming out, basically. But my paint is so thin that if I'm spraying much stronger than that, the paint will pool on the model, and it will not look good. So I need to spray at a very small pressure, otherwise it will just destroy the model. Okay, let's let that dry a bit and we'll come back. In the meantime, we'll work on that shield. So I'll do, yeah, I guess I'll do the same thing as I do for most panels on that knight. I'll spray from the middle. It will make for kind of a big gradient, like all over the knight. Now that this is starting to build up a bit, I need to let it dry. Otherwise, I'm going to destroy it. So this is just air. I'll go back to the chest plate. Allowing this to dry. This is going to require multiple coats, but that's good. I'd rather do multiple coat than one big that destroys the model. Got some more message. I'm not going to pick that one up. Not just yet. Sorry about that. I don't usually get that many people trying to talk to me while I'm painting, so I'll fix this for the future. Allowing this to dry. I think to push some air here, there's some dust. I'm definitely not going to push the breastplate so strong as the top, because the contrast with the top is actually interesting here. So we'll see. This a little bit more. We're about to load the Necrotite green here. Okay. So I'm going to be dumping what I have in the cup. Not going to be cleaning the cup. And I'll be loading Necrotite Green in it, along with Flow Improver. This needs to stay really, really, really thin. So Necrotite Green it is. Alright. Adding a little bit more. Alright, so this is how Flash Shake currently looks. I'm going to dump this so that the new colors start showing. Yeah, and this is probably where I'm going to stop. Like, remember on the shoulders, we went and we did some yellow mixed in with the Necrotite Green, but on this one, at least on the breastplate, we're not going to pump up to the yellow, because that would probably be way too bright. Okay, so just a little bit. Starting to build up. I'm going to do a bit of highlight in the middle of the chest. Allowing this to dry. There's one side of the breastplate that I prefer more than the other. The one where there's a gun is, for me, a little bit below what I would like it to be quality-wise. I'm going to try to fix this now. Yeah, this is better now. Okay, so the breastplate is colored, but is darker than the top, which is good, because this is what we want. Let's go work on the main shield here. Got some paint that's spickling a little bit here. Not the end of the world, because I've got a plan for the shield. But in other circumstances, I would be pissed off by this here. Typically, it means your needle is building up dry paint, so you need to clean the tip of your needle. Okay. So the shield is pretty bright at the moment. We're going to allow this to dry. Okay, and I don't think I'm going to push the shield any further than that. I'm going to let that dry for a moment. I'm going to stop the camera and I'm going to get the Secret Surprise out and see if I can get this to work on that shield. I'll be back in a second. Thank you guys. Okay, so I'm back. What you're seeing is an airbrush stencil. So this was supposed to be my secret weapon on this thing. It's a stencil that I got on Amazon that allows me to do essentially skulls. I never tried it, It is the extra small. Now the thing is, I just took it out right now, and I was hoping to be able to do skull on the shield. However, it is much too big for it. I'm not going to be able to use my now not so secret weapon. I'm going to take that back in that bag, and I guess the skull will be for a bigger miniature or a vehicle that has larger panels or whatever. I'm a little bit disappointed, honestly. I would have loved to put that skull on there, but hey, I mean, sometimes stuff just don't work out the way you wanted it to work out, and it turns out that that skull is a no-go. So, ooh, no skulls for us. Okay, which means I need to go and do something else for this thing. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be pushing air on this just to dry it. So this is high pressure air, and what we will do is that we will do stripes on it, and we'll probably do some orange. We're going to do multiple stripes on this shield. Orange should bring a nice and interesting contrast with green. It could very well be purple as well. I'm afraid that the purple might come out as a little bit too Easter. Also, now the sucky part is my shield is kind of in reverse. Like, I would have loved to get 2 stripes of orange, but if I wanted to do 2 stripes of orange, the good thing to do was to do orange first on the shield, then mask off the orange, and then do the green. So I am in reverse. This is not exactly what I wanted. So I'll have to work around this a little bit. Okay, this is mostly dry. We're going to get the modeling tape out again. Like, honestly, this modeling tape is what you want to be getting if you want to do that type of effect. If you're into doing very straight lines that don't destroy the paint job and everything, this is what you want. Like, you absolutely 100% need this. So I'll do multiple lines here. I'm just taping it on the side of my desk, and I'm cutting from the reel. This is just because I want to have multiple parts ready to go when I do put the tape on the model. Now we need to do an interesting pattern on that knight. And this is where things become interesting. So I'm thinking of doing lines that go from there to there and not the opposite, because on the opposite there's a chance of overspray on the main shoulder. So from the bottom here up to here. Since there's already some overspray on the metal, we kinda don't care. So I'm thinking of doing that line orange, and then we're probably going to do some weathering down the road on the silver part to bring some rusts and everything. So there's going to be a little bit of orange all over the model, and the shield is going to be the main orange point. So the important thing is, whatever you're doing, you need to be careful that everything is straight and about equal. Okay. No good, I need to start again. So what I'm going to do, the first time I use my finger to rub this and make sure that it's stuck on, but as you can see, I made a mark in the middle of the shield, which is obviously not what I want. Okay. I'm not sure. Let's make that stripe bigger than that. And we're going to try to go crazy on it. Okay. So a little bit bigger than this. I think this is about fair. Is it straight? Not quite. This is better. Using the brush. Okay. I think this is about good. And then we're going to try to do something that we don't see often. I've got another tape that is smaller. I'm thinking about doing a pattern in there. Not something complicated, something fairly simple, but since we don't see that type of thing often, people should pick up on this and they should enjoy the look of it. Okay, so I cut about 5 or 6 of these smaller stripes. And that tape is a lot smaller. So I'll pick up one at a time and I'm going to build side strip with it. That are going opposite direction. My original idea was to do just straight line, but I think that strips that are going towards the side are more interesting. And I will need to use tweezers for this, because it's a little bit too much on the precision side. Like, this needs to be perfectly straight, otherwise it's not going to be even remotely interesting. It needs to be pretty straight. So we're building that pattern like that. And you need to try all you can to make the different forms and shapes as similar as possible. Otherwise, this will not work. Oops, this was a mistake of me. It is not quite dry. It's not too bad, but I might end up with a bit of a mark in the final. Yeah, that part of the paint is not dry enough. Okay, I'll place it with my finger and I'll try to organize it then. Okay, so it is somewhat placed. Now I'm going to lift it slightly and move it around. Yeah, this is okay. Now the problem is there is going to be a green notch here because of the tweezer. Not the end of the world, but it's going to be there. Okay, so yet another. This should be the last one. Okay. I think most of our pattern are good. Like, this should make for an interesting shield. It for sure is very knightly. Oh, definitely. This is very, very, very knightly. Okay. And I'm wondering if I want to do another line at the top. This could be interesting. Risky, but interesting. So, I'm going to try to cut down the mask that I have here. This is so risky. Can I hate my life right now? Gosh. Okay, I'm going to... no, I kind of want that there. I'm going to try to cut this I might fuck up big time here, guys. Okay, not too bad. Let's see if this wants to stick still. Yes. Good. Okay. Now I need to pick up that guy here and do the same thing because he's going over. I really want to succeed at doing this effect there. Like, if this succeeds, it's going to be so nice. Like, visually speaking, it will be very cool. So I really want this to succeed. Gosh, I'm feeling like a surgeon here. So glad I'm not. Okay. So now, we're going to pick up this small tape again. We're going to cut a longer strip. And that longer strip, we will use to cover this side here. It's super important that this is tight. If it's not, because we just want a very small line. Not more than that, just a small line. So this should make for an interesting shield pattern. For sure, a shield pattern that I have never seen myself on a knight. And it feels a little bit like cheating, but sometimes cheating feels good. Okay. Now the thing is, I was not prepared to do orange here. So I will need to look at my colors at the back and see if I can select some good colors that I like. Oh, and most of my colors are in here. Okay, so Pro Acryl Orange I think might be too strong. Vallejo Brown is a good starting point. Yeah, the Pro Acryl is too strong for what I want. I don't want this to be like super freaking flashy. Light Rust is a good follow-up. And then I might actually do an in-between colors. So as I promised in the Patreon pledge, this is very much experimentation, guys. What I'm about to do might look like garbage. Like, it might be laughable. I'm hoping that it's not going to be. I'm hoping that it's going to be great, but it could be laughable. Okay, and one thing I need to do, and not forget, because I don't want to overspray that thing, I'm going to stick this here, which will create yet a second line, but keep the corner green. Is it straight? The key thing with these things is it needs to be straight. If it's not straight, people will pick up on it really quickly and they will not like it. If you're not able to do straight line there, take your time. And do not put paint until you've got something that looks straight. Okay, I think this is good. Not quite. Oops. Okay, this is it. Yes, this is it. The line is also thinner. So it should make for something rather interesting. Okay, so I think my build-up will go along these lines. So red, brown, then Troll Slayer orange, then light rust. Let's try this. Notice that I will not be switching airbrush. I'll just be really freaking careful. And one thing I will do is I will put a piece of towel behind this here, because protecting from the overspray in this case is going to be really hard. So hopefully this will be enough to do overspray protection. So a bit of a bravery test here, because this is a cool looking model and I might end up destroying it. But if you don't take risk, you will not progress as a painter. And if you don't progress, you will not learn new stuff. Or if you don't take risks, you'll not learn new stuff, and therefore you will not progress. Whatever, I think you guys get what I want to say. Okay, so this is a very brownish red that was selected specifically because brown red tend to mix well with oranges. Let's see how this comes out. So I need to dump my pressure way back. That's the other thing, you don't want to do too strong on pressure because sometimes the tapes don't like that. Okay, so I'm at about 15 pounds and I feel this is still too much. So I'll be spraying around 12 pounds or something like that. This is very thin paint and the spray is really gentle. This is going to be multi-pass process. Multi-pass. It might not look good. I'm still trying it. So I've been wanting to do a more complex pattern like this for a rather long time. So if it looks garbage, we're just starting over and it's not the end of the world. I'm trying to be careful in how I'm holding the airbrush here. Okay, I'm pushing air, allowing this to dry. The bottom of it is in need for a little bit more paint. Yeah, there's parts that need more paint. Okay, this is just air. And now we're going to try something that's going to be really cool if it works properly. Instead of doing the build-up as a whole, we're going to try to do the build-up in each individual part. Now, I'm not sure if I want it on the top or at the bottom of each individual part, but this should be really cool. It should bring that out like a lot. Honestly, just for what I'm doing now, I think the Patreon is actually pretty cool. Cleaning that airbrush a little bit. We're going to come with really thin color. I think I'm feeling the bottom more than the top. Not entirely sure. This is just a gut feeling. I think I'm feeling the bottom more than the top. Okay, so Troll Slayer Orange. This might appear as a bit of an harsh transition initially, because there's a big color difference in between both colors that we're using. But I kind of feel it, so our light rust first. These two colors are different. They're not close at all. Oh no, I want this on the brighter side. Troll Slayer Orange. Yeah, Troll Slayer Orange is a good choice. Okay. So, bring down the pressure. This is going to be about 10-12 pounds again. Let's empty what we had in the cup. This is our orange. It might be too thin. Might actually be too thin. Going to thicken it a little bit. Not too much. There's a very good reason I want this thing to be thin. The reason is, if it's too thick and I fuck up the build-up, then I'm done and I need to start over again. And I don't like to start over again. So I want to keep this thing incredibly thin. Yeah, this is a good thing to do. I feel it now. Okay. Let's see how this reacts now. Okay, it's going to be multiple pass, that's for sure. I'm going to do a bit of a change here, because I don't want overspray on the bottom part of the shield. And I'll be holding the model just like this here. I'm not entirely sure how this will turn out, but I've got a good feeling. So very, very little color. There's barely any paint coming out of the airbrush there. It's going to be an incredibly slow build-up. But once it is built up, it will look amazing. That is too thin, sadly. I might have fucked up. Yeah, I did a little bit of a boo-boo here. Really, really hard to gauge with the tape and everything. I think there's still chances of this doing good, because I've got a space here for battle damage that I can do. But as is, the effect is not going to be perfect, because I've put a little bit too much paint on one side. And it did an ugly build up here. Still going to try to save it. But worst case, this will become a battle damage spot. Red is not typically picked up nicely by cameras, so I'm sorry about that. But once it is painted, should look good. Going to let that stuff dry a bit. Quite a bit, actually. It is in need of dry time. Now, I am going to do battle damage on this thing, so should be alright. Fucked up again. This is turning out bad. A very good idea is turning bad right now on me. I will probably come back with the previous color to try to fix some of this, because it's not a bad ID, it's a good ID. My paint is just slightly too thin right now. Trying to keep control over it, but keeping control over paint that is this thin is not an easy task actually. So I'll come back with the darker color once the lighter color are locked in. Yeah, I think this is the way to go. Because this is actually a pretty good idea. Allowing this to dry a little bit more. So I'll allow myself to go a little bit stronger here because I know I'm coming back. This is just air. I'll be cranking my air pressure a bit because this needs a little bit more love than that. This is very much just air. I'm drying paint right now. I'm not painting. There was a lot of flow improver in there. Not sure how this is going to look when it's going to come out of the tape. It will probably be an eternity to dry. Okay, I'm going to bring my pressure back down. I'm at about 15. And what I'll do is I'll drop some yellow in there. The yellow will thicken up the paint that's already there. So I'm going to drop some of that paint. It will help up with the thickness situation. My Pro Acryl paint pot still fucked in my hands. Sometimes the agitator gets stuck in the nozzle. When it does that, there's nothing good coming out of it. So I'm adding some yellow to my mix. Should make for a much brighter orange. It will thicken my paint as well. Once this is in, we're going back to darker color. Okay, so let's get the previous color out of there. Alright, this is our new color coming out. I need to lower my pressure a little bit. I'm at about 12 pound again. It's not going to be perfect, but the effort is there. I still think it looks pretty sick. Do I want to go all the way up to yellow? I think I do. I think I do. Gosh, this is almost heresy. There still is a couple of spots that are not nice, that I don't like. Like, I need to dry this. I got excited, this is the thing, I got excited. And there's some colors that I should have left to dry a lot longer that I didn't. So this is why my pattern is not perfect here. But I'm working it to bring it better. And it is looking better. And I think I will go to an even brighter orange than what we have here, with more of that yellow. Because it kind of makes sense. Oh gosh, that fucking agitator is screwing me up again. Let's hope it's on stock. Yep. So when your Pro Acryl paint stops squirting paint on you, just hit them on the table really hard. So I'm loading a lot of yellow in that pot. Yeah. A little bit more. We'll still come back with the darker red though. I'm dumping the previous color that was there. Now this is our new color starting to show up. It is much brighter, as you can see. Let's go for it. It still is orange though. Should be thicker, so it should be slightly easier to keep control over it. Okay, I think this is great. Let's go back to the darker color now. Oh gosh, this is so thick it will not come out. Okay, I need to clean this airbrush a little bit. Cranking my pressure. I'm going to allow the paint through. By the way, this effect should be pretty cool. If there's no underbleed under the tape, which can happen. Like, I had some very liquid paint on there. But if I don't have any underbleed issues, this should be a pretty incredible effect. Let's do a good clean here. I don't want to run into issues. It's important to clean that airbrush, guys. Don't clean your airbrush, it will be up to no good for you. Cleaning your airbrush is not fun, but is the most important thing to do when you're working with it. No matter how good or bad you are with your airbrush, the one thing that you absolutely need to do is to be good at cleaning. You have to clean that brush. Okay, so we're going back with that red-brown color. I'm not going to put flow improver in there. I'm going to first see how it works straight through it, because there's a lot of paint on that thing right now, and I'd like to avoid any overpaint issues. Also, this is just a little bit of a touch-up. Yeah, this is already pretty thin, like that's already in their color. I should not run into any issues with that. This is good. Okay, let's do this. So we're bringing back some contrast in there with the original color. No need to push far. This is just some contrast. And with that, I think the effect is done. I'm going to give a clean to my airbrush before we unveil. And we're going to discover if I lost that one or not. And we might have our very first let's laugh about Phil moment here. Or we might have a very impressive surprise. Both are possible. Okay, I'm going to leave my airbrush on the side with some water in it. Oh, stressful moment, guys. Let's see how this looks. For now, it looks pretty good. I'd say I fucking did it. So this is fucking grand. It's not 100% perfect, but when I come back with the actual highlights, like the brushed on highlights, this is pretty cool, guys. All right, so I'm going to stop this one here. I've got some cleanup to do around here, yeah, it was nice experimenting this with you. Hopefully you had a good time watching this as much as I did. This is definitely an interesting experiment that we just did. It shows that sometimes taking a risk paint-wise can be worth it, and makes for great things. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good time, and I'll see you next time. Bye.